Hello, welcome back to my channel, guys. Every time I sit down here, sometimes I feel like it's been a while since I've filmed. The reason why is because last week it just felt really hectic. I had a lot of days where I had lows and highs, and it was just like this. That's whenever we had that additional moon, which is the astro. During that time and during the eclipse, I felt like my energy was just everywhere, and there was a lot of parts of me that were rising or coming up to the surface for me to acknowledge so that I can heal them. So whenever I feel like that, I try to take a lot of time to myself and try to ground myself. So I try not to be too much on Instagram or social media a whole lot. And then this past week we had a lot going on. My sister gave birth on Monday. We went to the state fair on Thursday, and yeah, so now I'm back ready to film this video. The reason why I want to talk about this is because it's a huge part of my spiritual journey that I went through. I feel like whenever I have some lows, I come back a lot stronger. That's usually what happens. That's why whenever people are thinking about committing suicide or they're having really negative thoughts, I'm like, just hang in there, because I promise it gets better. It gets easier to handle. If you overcome that wave, sometimes you have to give in to the sadness, sometimes you have to sit down and cry, and sometimes you have to sit down and sit with those feelings. And a lot of people are taught to run away from their feelings and not talk about them or suppress them, or even toxic positivity. But it's a real thing, because you can't be positive 24/7. I know people are like, think better thoughts, and yes, it does help. Of course it does, because it creates this pattern for you to start thinking in a positive way. But whenever you're feeling those negative emotions, sometimes you have to succumb to that. Sometimes you have to sit down and observe your thoughts and see, why is it that this is bothering me so much right now? What is this trying to show me? What is this trying to teach me? And whenever you think that way about all those negative feelings, you're not so hateful towards those feelings themselves. You know that it's something that's coming to surface so that you can work on them and try to help heal them and heal those parts of yourself. That was a mouthful. So this is a video that I actually wanted to film for a while. I just never really was able to. I am gonna make a quick disclaimer that I am not trying to spread hate or rumors or anything like that. I had a really hard time the following years after I had left my job. So I started working for Louis Vuitton, I think around 2019, and I think I left them a little bit after the pandemic started. I remember that we had to start working from home, which became quite a bit of a challenge for me at the time. We had a full house, so that's why it was really hard for me. I worked in doing repairs and taking phone calls, but I was mostly taking phone calls at first, doing repairs at first, and then taking phone calls. And whenever I had to start taking phone calls from both US and Mexico, that's really whenever it started to get a little bit difficult for me, because it was like nonstop calls, back to backs. Whenever you're in a house and there's a lot of background noise and kids running around and stuff like that, it gets really stressful. Those are stressful circumstances to work under, and it just wasn't very peaceful. So it was a hard time. Man, I don't know. Whenever COVID hit, it woke up a lot of people. A lot of truth was coming up to the surface. Anyways, for me in my life, right? My sister was having issues in her marriage, which ultimately took a toll on my mental health too. Like, whatever you give your energy into, right? It's just so dangerous. Whatever, that your energy is powerful and it's strong. So if you're giving attention to anything negative, that's where all your energy is going into. And so I would always pray to God to make the situation better, because it really was. I was trying to be there for her emotionally, and it was just pretty draining, you guys. I got sucked into it. And then I started having issues in my own marriage and started having problems with my husband, and we would get into it, and it was just like, it was like a volcano eruption in the family. It was really crazy. That's whenever I really struggled with my mental health, and I needed to take some time away from work. And I remember I had asked for some time because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just felt like I wasn't clear on life. I didn't really know where I wanted to be headed. I didn't really want to work for the company either. The calls that I would get would be very draining in comparison to, like, I would be here facing the real world and the spiritual world, everything that was going on, just seeing COVID, seeing people be like having to keep their distance and us having to wear a mask, FEMA, everything was just a little bit weird for me. And then at the same time, you would get people calling in and really complaining about spilled milk, in my opinion. This is all my opinion on working for the brand. I had a good time there. I learned a lot. I learned a lot both professionally and emotionally, a lot of things about myself. And I don't regret my time there. I actually really enjoyed meeting a lot of people there. I felt really close with certain people during that whole COVID thing. And whenever I was feeling and falling into a low pit of depression, I felt so alone. I felt alone, and so I needed to take some time off. And I had quickly messaged the HR manager, had asked her if I could take some time for myself and to really think about what I wanted to do, because I was really struggling with my depression. And so she had told me, yes, I can have some time off. I forgot how much time she gave me. I don't know if it was like a few weeks that she gave me off. Could have been like 3 weeks, maybe even a month, unpaid. But she gave me the time off. And later on, I had found out that she had done the same thing to somebody else, but she had given her paid time off, which really, I don't know if it hit my ego or hurt my ego or ruffled my feathers. I was somebody that was easily triggered back then. So anything that really pissed me off, I would say something about it. I wouldn't stay quiet about it. So, that really irritated me. And I just felt like they didn't really treat people the way that they should. They didn't handle the mental health issues the way that they should have. Because it wasn't just me, it was a couple of people that were having similar issues, I guess, to this. I'm not gonna mention her name, but there's a coworker of mine that wrote like a long, lengthy email, and she even sent it to me. She screenshotted it for me, and she sent this long, lengthy email talking about why she was leaving and pretty much blamed, certain people for being rude and not taking mental health serious whenever, because it was a couple of managers there that would kind of dismiss it, just I guess maybe because they themselves didn't know what it was like. But in my opinion, that's just poor leadership. You should never give somebody that kind of position if you're not going to be understanding of your team. And so she had an issue with that. She ended up talking and putting certain names in that email, and she left. She put her 2 weeks in, and I think she had other issues. I think they were not wanting to pay her for like certain days, but thank God she got that resolved and she was able to get paid for those days. But just the fact that would be a problem with a place like Louis Vuitton, come on, you guys, it's like, really? Like, the people that work there really put their heart into it. They put a lot of work into it. I get it. Every place has like lazy workers, but whenever you start there, they put you through like, I want to say like 4 weeks of training. So my husband had to rearrange his schedule so I can make sure that I was there at like a certain time, which was my shift, but I was there at a certain time so that I can get trained properly on how to pick up phone calls and phone etiquette. Like, people put a lot of their life into this, and I did too, because I really wanted to work there for the longest time. When I first started working there, it was like a dream come true to me. And yeah, I do think that I manifested working there, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But I'll go back to like my whole spiritual side to this. So I was pretty upset, and even though I was upset, I still went back. Still went back after the either month or a few weeks off that I had, and I was hoping that I would feel differently about it. But whenever I was having issues with my husband too, I had confided in one friend that worked there with me, and I was kind of explaining to her my situation, which I don't blame her at all because she wasn't married herself, so she didn't understand. She didn't have kids either. But I told her something that had really bothered me that my husband did, and I just felt like she wasn't there for me emotionally. And again, I don't blame her because it's not her job to be there for me emotionally in any shape or form. But she was a really close friend of mine, so I guess I just wanted that. I wanted somebody to tell me, hey, it's okay, you know, if he's doing something that you don't like, then, you know, maybe try to resolve it. Or I don't know what I was looking for, but really I just wanted some advice and I wanted some support. I wanted somebody to be there for me, and I just didn't have that. I obviously didn't have that with my sister. She was going through her own stuff. I never really had anybody else that I could talk to about anything that was going on in my life, so I felt very alone. And it's weird because at the same time I felt like a large amount of followers on my Instagram. I was posting a lot of similar stuff that Connecting Consciousness and Billy Carson would post, stuff like that. I was exposing a lot of the cabal. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but this is earlier on, I guess, in one of my bigger awakening moments. I was struggling a lot internally, and whenever I went back, it was so weird because we were working from home. I remember trying to get myself focused, get myself back into that workflow, and for some freaking reason, and you guys, like, I have my husband to tell you guys because he would be there in the room with me, but every time after I came back, every time I would put on the pair of headsets, getting myself mentally prepared to take those phone calls again, and I just couldn't do it. I started feeling ill. Like the third phone call that I would get, I started feeling like I was gonna throw up. I started getting tremendous headaches, and I just felt at one moment, I felt like my soul was just like pulling me. Like, I don't know, something was pulling me, like force was pulling me and just telling me like to stop it. I just felt like in that moment, it just wasn't for me anymore. I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy at my job anymore. And it really felt like I wasn't meant to be doing that anymore. And it was really hard for me to leave. It was just a difficult time. Ultimately, because I felt that pull, whatever it was, I felt like it was the right thing for me to do, to just quit. I had sent HR an email and I told her that I wasn't going to be working anymore. I did still have some anger and resentment towards the HR manager herself because I felt like she wasn't really fair. And you know, the other girl who had written that whole email, shortly after she had written that email, the director got let go. Like, he wasn't even, from what I heard, he wasn't even allowed to come back in for his stuff, or somebody had to like walk in with him, something like that. I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like the issue here, the most powerful person in position in something like that is actually the HR manager, not the director, because the HR manager has a lot more say over certain things when it comes to who they hire and what they do over the director. So I felt like the whole issue with, you know, your mental health, I felt like that was an HR issue. I don't really feel like that was a director's issue. I don't think that's something that he should have been blamed for if that was the reason why he was being let go. I wasn't the only person that they were doing that to, and it's just like any other corporate politic place, you know, they choose their favorites, they promote or give certain positions to their favorites. You have to know how to kiss ASS. And honey, that's something that I just have never been able to do. Like, I don't know, I just found it really cringy, and I would never be able to do that because if I didn't like somebody, it was written all over my face. Like, I couldn't hide that because I didn't want to. I didn't want somebody that I didn't like thinking that I really liked them. I was just never phony like that. It just felt weird and just unnatural to me. So I never kissed ASS. I was like, you know what? I just need to walk away from this job. You know, it means a lot to me, but my health and my sanity means a lot more to me, and it's not going to cost me my life, you know, and put my family in a whole crappy situation just because of that. Like, I wasn't about to do that. I wasn't about to go down that road. Shortly after that, one of my coworkers passed away, and it just like it really had, it kind of shook like my world a little bit, because I obviously was never expecting. It was like a really sudden thing that happened. He wasn't like it wasn't like he was stage 4 terminal cancer, you know. He was okay, he was healthy. I think from what I heard, he had died from like his asthma. Overnight he was like having a hard time breathing, and I think that's when he died. So I don't know, everything was just changing, you guys. I mean, my manager was let go. I had a different manager. I had a whole different team or people that I was working with during that time. And then there were certain days where I had to go into the office after a while. And I didn't always like being at the office. It was just such a weird feeling. So it was really like a big change. It was too much for me to handle, honestly. I can't fully blame the job itself because I had a lot of stuff going on at home. And honestly, I am glad that I left. My husband was working for Lockheed Martin at the time, and he made pretty good money also. Like I said, together, we made comfortably, easily made over 100,000 together. During that time, because I was depressed, because I had so much healing that I had to do, I had so much stuff going on in my personal life. I was trying to be there for my sister, her downtime, and her struggles that she was dealing with in her own marriage. I was trying to hold space for everything. I was trying to hold space for so many different people in my life, and a lot of people didn't even deserve that space, if I'm being honest. But that's who I am, right? That I try to be somebody that's there for everybody. And I didn't really see that I needed to be there for myself more than anyone at that time. And I even started having this gambling addiction, because me and my husband would go to WinStar, and it was fine. It was a healthy, okay thing to do. But after a while, it kind of became an addiction because we would go so often. It's crazy how much we went, and I look back, and obviously, like, I'm all good now. I can look back at these moments and just, you know, come from a place of compassion and understanding and know that it was a hard time for me. I was dealing with a lot. I was dealing with a lot emotionally, and I just didn't always let it show. But sometimes it would show in how I would act or how I would feel. And I think that there just needed to be an end to all of that. And I think the end to all of that was ultimately me letting go and just not working there anymore. They had asked me to do like a exit interview, and I declined to do the exit interview because I had nothing nice to say at the time. I was really upset and just over them. I was kind of over higher management. It was mostly with just one person in HR in particular. And then whenever I was working there, I had started my jewelry business, which later on I had to put it on a huge pause and hold. But yes, all of that had to happen for me. I learned a very valuable lesson. I felt a lot of envy energy from certain people, especially online on my social media account. I felt like a lot of people were envious that I worked for them. I mean, the #1 luxury retailer in the world. And I felt that on a strong level. And you know what? I did try to help a few people work there and try to get them on board. But it taught me a lot, you guys. It really did. I remember working there and just feeling like I didn't have enough, which is crazy because I had way more than enough. And I just didn't do everything that I said I would do if I would have gotten to that point. So it was definitely a test too, that you can literally have everything in life and still be missing and feeling a complete void in your heart and your soul. And that means more than any amount of handbags, shoes, money, or cars that there is in the world. At the end of the day, what really matters is your soul, your inner peace. And if you don't have any of that, it doesn't matter how much money you have in your account. It doesn't matter how many handbags, designer handbags and designer shoes you have. That's not gonna fill that void. this is something that we have to work on ourselves and have to heal our inner child, because that is what is going to give us the power and the will to want to get better, want to do better, not just for ourselves, for the people around us. I appreciate my time there because, like I said, I learned a lot of valuable lessons. I feel like I got a huge check mark, a huge bucket list item off my list of what I wanted to do in life. I know I worked in retail my whole life, so yeah, working for Louis Vuitton for me was one of the things that I wanted to do, and I got it done. And you know, it's crazy, but I do think that I manifested this job. The reason why I think that is because, and I didn't know it back then, I didn't know what I was doing, but I used to sit back and scroll through their website and just be like, oh, wouldn't it be nice just do this for a living? And I would do that for a while, because, but like, not like intentionally, like, let me manifest, let me sit down here, scroll through. What I was doing, I wasn't fully aware of. But now that I have learned all this, and looking back at my life, I know that I did do this. I know that I manifested this into my life. I had found The Law of Resonance by Neville Goddard after, like way after I had quit Louis Vuitton. I was really just looking, scrolling through their website on my phone, admiring every little piece. I had always been a Louis Vuitton fanatic. Whenever I had gotten my first job, I told myself that I was gonna save up for a handbag. This is when the Speedies were like $600. And you know, as you Louis Vuitton fanatics know, they increase their prices every single year, or like around that. Prior to me even applying for the job, I remember just scrolling through their website on my phone and admiring all the bags. I would be like, man, wouldn't it be nice to just work for them? I would get to do this pretty much for a living. I would get paid to be scrolling through their website, and like, what a dream come true. And so I would do that for a while. I want to say that I did that for like a month. I'm not 100% sure on like the timeline, but I remember sitting down, scrolling through their page, and just feeling the feeling of already working for them. I'm feeling the gratitude. I don't know if it's because like deep down, maybe I already knew that somewhere down the line I was going to be working for them, or if it's because I did that I started working for them. Shortly after, I forgot, I don't know how it came about, but me and my husband were like talking about it, and I was searching for a different job. I had actually quit the job that I had prior to that, so I was without a job for a little bit, and that's whenever I did that. Around that time, that's whenever my husband had told me, he was like, why don't you just apply at Louis Vuitton? And I was like, I don't know, hon, like, I don't think I'll ever get the job. And he told me something that he always tells me. He's like, you'll never know unless you try. He's like, you'll never know what the answer is until you ask. So don't be embarrassed, don't be shy, don't be afraid to ask and try. And so I was like, okay, you know what, you're right. And he's like, here, I'll do it for you. And I remember him grabbing my phone, and he like saw my resume, and he went ahead and submitted my resume over to Louis Vuitton. And he saw several different positions that they were hiring for. And there was one in particular that he had seen, and he's like, okay, this one says that that's a call center. I'm like, I don't know, I don't have any call center experience. Like, I don't know if I want to do that. He's like, honey, he's like, just try it. So he went ahead and submitted my resume. And then a while after, I had gotten a phone call from one of the HR managers, and she was so sweet, and she helped me throughout the whole process. You know, she sent me questions that I had to interview pretty much in a video like this, like where I had to submit video responses to. And so she really liked me. She liked that I spoke Spanish, so that was a plus. And the in-person interview was pretty intense. It was like a whole group of people. The point is that I got it. And honestly, whenever I had first gotten the job, I was so happy and so thrilled. I wasn't gonna pass out on this opportunity to work for them. We did everything that we could to work around the schedule, to make sure that I was there for all the trainings and everything. I was so grateful to God, and I just felt so blessed to have that whole experience. And you know what, honestly, today, even though I'm not working there anymore, like, I still feel blessed to have had that experience, and it really helped me grow tremendously. it played a huge role in my spiritual journey, which I would have never guessed. That's my story there. I feel like now, after understanding more of the spiritual journey and going through everything that I've gone through, I understand that everything was happening for me and not to me. And I feel like, as somebody who's had this spiritual journey, that is something so important that you have to pretty much install in your mind, and you have to keep saying this to yourself. Everything is happening for me, not to me, especially whenever it gets hard in life, because you will see at the end that this event took place and this thing happened because of this reason. And I truly believe that. But yeah, you guys, that's all for why I quit Louis Vuitton and how that ties into my spiritual journey, how that had a lot to do with my spiritual growth, and how I truly feel like I manifested that. Later on, I found out about Neville Goddard. Neville Goddard is phenomenal. He's incredible. And I had learned about his about the law of resonance. So the true way of, see, the law of attraction just doesn't fully explain things, right? Like, the way that people understand the law of attraction, they think that, okay, I'm gonna attract this thing and it's just going to fall into my lap without me doing anything. No, that's not how it works. And if anything, the truth is, the best way to manifest is using the law of resonance. The law of resonance means that whatever you are vibrating at, right? So whatever's in your energetic field, whether you're thinking and being, however you're thinking and being, that's what you're going to get in life. The universe is going to give you who you are, who you're being, what your intentions are, and what your thoughts are. It's not going to give you exactly what you want. It's going to give you who you are being. And, you know, our actions play a huge role in that, because the highest form of prayer is action. I hope this brought something of value or entertainment, but thank you guys so much for watching and sticking till the end. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.